Hello, this is Bob, and I'll be reading the Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 edition of the Fall River Herald. Today's weather will be very hot and humid, 92 to 99 for a high, 67 to 74 for a low. On Wednesday, hot and humid again, 89 to 96 for a high, 68 to 75 for a low. Thursday, we're looking at possible thunderstorms, but not quite as warm, 77 to 84 for a high, 61 to 68 for a low. Friday, partial sunshine, but a little cooler, 74 to 81 for a high, 57 to 64 for a low. And Saturday, mostly sunny, 79 to 86 for a high, 59 to 66 for a low. The sun rose today at 5:36 and it sets tonight at 8:06. The first article in today's paper on the front page is entitled Fall River Fire Department Chief Talks Hiring Strategy. Bacon says new efforts will bring in more recruits. The city is making a concerted effort to address staffing shortages for the Fall River Fire Department that is staffed at the 187 manpower and deployed about 50 firefighters to the devastating July 13th Gabriel House fire that killed 10 and injured dozens of others. Now, new hiring strategies are being explored that may alleviate staffing burdens sooner and reduce the amount of time it takes to hire a firefighter. At a July 16th press conference, Mayor Paul Coogan announced that the city will budget an additional $1.5 million for fire department staffing, but in the immediate future expects to fill gaps with overtime. In the long term, we will be hiring about 15 to 20 firefighters coming on in the ranks over the next 2 years, Bacon said at the conference in the days after the fire. The additional personnel would translate to essentially 3 more firefighters per shift. In the interim, Bacon said there may be a new avenue for connecting firefighters with Fall River's departments tangential to the usual hiring strategy handled through the state's public service system. Like other Massachusetts municipalities, the city draws its firefighters from one of now 3 firefighting academies in the state, located in Stowe, Springfield, and a new facility in Bridgewater, Bacon said. The Massachusetts Firefighting Academy runs its rigorous 300-course training for roughly 3 months, with classes scheduled to start up in September and October 2025 until December. On a rotational schedule, alternate locations will begin classes in December into February 2026, with another round set for January through March 2026, serving a historical number of recruits year over year. Adding more classes or upping class sizes could bring in more recruits, but that's not something I've asked, Bacon said. We're not the only ones looking to hire and increase staffing, he said, citing a statewide need for firefighters. Recruits receive training in Firefighter 1 and 2 courses and are certified as an EMT through the academy. Once they pass a written and physical exam before they are funneled through the state's civil service unit that dispatches a list of names of eligible recruits to hiring departments. The entire process, from start to signing on with a department, Bacon said, can take up to 9 months or a year. Bacon said he's required to hire 50% of the candidates passed down by civil service, but has no say in who is added to the list. The local registry is a new option pending the city's approval that would be offered to local fire chiefs through the civil service hiring process. But it replaces power with chiefs who can then attract and vet local firefighting talent. It will take a signed contract between the Fall River Fire Department and the Civil Service Unit to establish the registry, but once and if the move to expand hiring passes, Bacon would be able to hire academy-trained firefighters who are looking to join the Fall River Department, but who may not be recent graduates, nor would they necessarily be a Fall River resident. Civil service process typically gives preference to city residents, Bacon said. New hires from the local registry would be selected based on credentials Bacon deems appropriate to fit the city department. They must already be certified EMTs and have passed Firefighter 1 and 2 offered through the state academy. Bacon said he's able to hire up to 50% of candidates off the local registry. The local registry could shave the hiring process down to 7 months, Bacon said, opening the door for a 2-month process from application to start date for new Fall River firefighters. A condition of the local registry would put those hired through a 3-week department-specific academy where recruits would become acquainted with the stations, be introduced to staff, and wherein Bacon could make sure we're comfortable with their ability. Expediting the hiring process is the priority of the local registry, but also Bacon shared that it could connect firefighters from across the state with Fall River. I have received a bunch of emails of people who are interested in working here, Bacon said, adding that he's heard from firefighters who serve the Boston metro area and considered Fall River a prospective department. Governor Maura Healey visited Fall River on July 22nd to announce her administration will be fast-tracking $1.2 million in state funds to Fall River to hire more emergency response personnel and made it clear she would double down efforts to enact tighter legislative measures in response to the tragedy at Gabriel House. Healey also said $5.7 million for police and fire personnel is being made available to 10 eligible communities, which in addition to Fall River include Brockton, Framingham, Haverhill, Lawrence, Lowell, Lynn, Malden, Newton, and Somerville. When asked if Healey's proposed funding was related to the anticipated goals of the local registry, Bacon confirmed it was not. He added that state monies would be dispersed incrementally, with the first payment likely received in February or March, and the second in June or July of 2026. Bacon said he plans to meet with city officials on July 25th to discuss the department's options in accordance with the latest hiring goals. The second front page article is entitled, Local SRTA Bus Service Fare Free for Another Year. City buses in Greater Fall River and New Bedford will keep the good times rolling by collecting no fares for another year. SRTA announced Monday, July 21st, that its fixed route buses and demand response vans will be fare-free until June 30th, 2026. Southeastern Regional Transit Authority, which runs bus service throughout 10 communities in the South Coast, has not charged fares since January 1st, 2024. Originally due to expire June 30th, the fare-free experiment was extended temporarily until August 30th, and again until the end of fiscal 2026, funded by the state's Millionaire's Tax, or Fair Share Amendment. The voter-approved amendment is a 4% surtax on personal incomes above $1 million, with the funding used exclusively for education and transportation. On June 24th, Governor Maura Healey signed a supplemental budget allocating another $1.32 billion in fair share money for education and transportation. Of that, $50 million is going to the state's 15 regional transit authorities, including SRTA. SRTA also runs a micro-connector van service to bring passengers to and from the New Bedford and Fall River MBTA commuter rail stations. Those are not fare-free. The fare is $1 per person and 50 cents for those older than 65. Additional passengers are $1 for riders aged 12 to 64 or 50 cents for ages 6 to 11 or 65 and older, and free for kids under 6. What are the benefits of SRTA business going fare free? Well, it's faster. In January 2025, the think tank Massachusetts Budget and Policy Center wrote that a year of fare-free service caused SRTA bus service to be on time more often, since drivers didn't have to wait for riders to pull out their wallets. More people use it. SRTA also saw ridership increase 56.5% in the fall of 2024 compared to the same period a year earlier. Most people want it. A Mass Inc. polling group survey in March 2024 showed that even though 87% of people polled did not use SRTA bus services, 66% of people supported not charging fares, and 60% of people wanted to continue using millionaire tax revenue to pay for it. And also, collecting money is expensive. Fare collection also may not make fiscal sense. A 2021 report from the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority showed that 3/4 of all money from fares collected was used to pay for the fare collection system itself. How popular is SRTA bus service? Well, according to SRTA's numbers, SRTA's fixed route bus service ridership is increasing. In the first 2 quarters of fiscal 2024, SRTA gave 1.19 million rides. In the first 2 quarters of fiscal 2025, that number has increased to 1.8 million. That means the fixed route system gave over 613,000 more rides than at this point last year. The first 2 quarters of fiscal 25 alone have seen ridership higher than in all of fiscal 2022. SRTA also runs a demand response service for the disabled. In the first 2 quarters of fiscal 2025, that service gave more than 60,000 rides, up from about 47,000 the year before. In the last several years, SRTA has expanded its weekend service to Sundays, and in December it brought back 25-minute express service between Fall River and New Bedford. The ridership growth proves that increased access to transportation provides community members with increased opportunities to reach education, employment, medical care, shopping, family, and friends, said SRTA Administrator Eric Rousseau. Robust public transportation is vital infrastructure that supports everyone in the community, not just the riders. The third front page article is entitled Powerboat Race Returns to the Waterfront. A long-running fundraising event is about to make waves on the Fall River waterfront once again. The first weekend of August, there will be plenty of fun to be had by land and by water as the annual Borden Light Marina Charity Poker Run returns for its 19th year. Spectators are invited to line the marina at 1 Ferry Street and pop by the neighboring Tipsy Seagull to watch dozens of powerboats launched from the waters of Mount Hope Bay in what's become a popular Spindle City summer tradition. Organized by Mike and Nicole Lund, owners of Borden Light Marina, as well as Tipsy Seagull and Pier 52 restaurants, the Borden Light Marina Charity Poker Run started nearly 2 decades ago as a small get-together of a few boats at the former regatta in Fall River. It has since grown to a full-fledged charity boat race drawing participants from across the New England and beyond to help raise money for a good cause. It has been an honor to host this event with participants from near and far who dedicated their heart and soul to making this a fun event where thousands of dollars have been raised for both local and national organizations. The Lund state at the Borden Light Marina Charity Poker Run webpage. Festivities technically kick off on Friday, August 1st, with invite-only events for captains, crew, and event sponsors at the Tipsy Seagull, as well as live music from all from the Complaints from 7 to 11 p.m. WEEI will also be broadcasting live from the Tipsy Seagull on Friday morning as Poker Run weekend gets underway. The boat race will take place on Saturday, August 2nd. The public is invited to head to Borden Light Marina, 1 Ferry Street, to get in on the fun with events scheduled all day at the Tipsy Seagull. Race day kicks off at 9 a.m. with registration for boaters, as well as activities at Tipsy Seagull featuring vendors, T-shirt sales, raffles, and more. There you'll also find the Dunk Tank, a perennial crowd pleaser that, like previous years, is sure to make a splash with some special guests. At the Tipsy, guests can hang out, get an up-close look at the impressive power boats, and meet the crew before boats leave the dock at the Tipsy Seagull at 12:30 p.m. and take off under the Braga Bridge at 12:45 p.m. Poker Run participants will hit 4 stops along the race route: East Providence Yacht Club, Greenwich Cove Marina in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, West Wind Marina in Newport, Rhode Island, and Thames Street Public Dock in Bristol, Rhode Island, before returning to the starting point at Tipsy around 3 p.m. First place finishers takes home the top prize of $3,500. Second place gets $1,000. There will also be prizes awarded for the categories of Best Looking Boat and Best Looking Crew. Both boat enthusiasts and spectators can enjoy a drink and a bite at Tipsy Seagull's floating bar and restaurant while they take in some live music starting at 2 p.m. at the Tipsy Seagull as well as Pier 52. Where to find the best view on race day? Well, that's at Pier 52 and Tipsy Seagull, and the City Pier are some prime viewing spots to watch the race. Many boats also anchor along Taunton River to watch. Where do the Poker Run proceeds go? Well, proceeds from this year's Borden Light Marina Charity Poker Run will be split between Make-A-Wish, Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and the Greg Hill Foundation. According to its website, the Greg Hill Foundation responds to immediate requests for assistance to improve the lives of local families touched by tragedy through matching the charitable donation of Greg's media audience. Last year, the Borden Light Marina Charity Poker Run raised a total of $75,000 for these charities, the BLM Poker Run webpage states. Registration is currently underway. The cost for captain and crew is currently $675 and bumps to $750 after July 31st. Brunch and dinner are included for participants. For a complete schedule of events or to register for the 2025 Borden Light Marina Charity Poker Run, visit the event page on Tipsy Seagull's website. That's www.thetipsyseagull.com/pokerrun. This next article is from USA Today. Massachusetts law says driving slow in the left lane is illegal. We've all been there. Late to work, foot on the gas, and up ahead, a left lane lingerer coasting 5 under the speed limit like they're on a scenic tour of the Mass Pike. Nothing brings drivers together quite like shared rage at some slowpoke who just won't leave the left lane. For Bay Staters, not only are they infuriating, but they could also be breaking the law. Massachusetts law requires drivers to stay in the right lane unless they're passing another car or preparing for a left turn. Even if the right lane has been designated for purposes other than ordinary travel, the law says drivers must go in the lane adjacent to the right lane with the same exceptions. A vehicle about to be overtaken by another vehicle must also give way to the right. This means you cannot cruise or camp in the left lane on a highway unless actively passing another vehicle. Another section of the law says that drivers must drive on the right on any way where there is not an unobstructed view of the road for at least 400 feet, or when ascending a grade. Can trucks drive in the left lane in Massachusetts? Heavy commercial vehicles, which is defined as vehicles over 2.5 tons and used for the transportation of goods, wares, and merchandise, must stay in the far right lane. They may use the adjacent lane for passing, but no other except in an emergency. What are the fines for driving in the left lane in Massachusetts? Violators of Massachusetts left lane driving law could be subject to a fine of up to $100. Can I exceed the speed limit in the left lane in Massachusetts? No. You are not legally allowed to exceed the posted speed limit, even in the left lane passing a slower vehicle. In Massachusetts, the maximum speed on most interstate highways in Massachusetts is 65, unless a posted sign says otherwise. How do other states compare to Massachusetts' left lane law? Massachusetts is one of the majority of states that regulate left lane driving. In fact, all 50 states have some form of keep right law, but what they actually mandate differs from state to state. Most New England states have similar laws to Massachusetts. In Connecticut, a new state law will bring them more in line with the Bay State by allowing police to ticket drivers who are cruising in the left lane of a highway without actively passing another car. This article is from USA Today. The Trump administration warns immigrants to carry green card and visa. Amid the Trump administration's ongoing crackdown, the nation's immigration service is warning immigrants to carry their green card or visa at all times. Citizenship and Immigration Services posted the reminder on July 23rd on social media. Always carry your alien registration documentation. Not having these when stopped by federal law enforcement can lead to a misdemeanor and fines. In a Know Your Rights presentation, the American Civil Liberties Union cautions immigrants older than 18 to follow the law and carry your papers with you at all times. If you don't have them, the ACLU says, tell the officer that you want to remain silent or that you want to consult a lawyer before answering any questions. The law requiring lawful immigrants and foreign visitors to carry their immigration documents isn't new, dating to the 1950s. The Immigration and Nationality Act states, every alien, 18 years of age and over, shall at all times carry with him and have in his personal possession any certificate of alien registration or alien registration receipt card issued to him. But the law had rarely been imposed before the Trump administration announced earlier this year that it would strictly enforce it. The carry your papers portion fell out of use for cultural and historical reasons, said Michelle LaPointe, legal director for the nonprofit American Immigration Council. In contrast to the Soviet bloc at the time the requirement was written, we have never been a country where you have to produce evidence of citizenship on demand from law enforcement. Many immigrants prefer to hold their green card or visa in safekeeping because, like a passport, they are expensive and difficult to obtain. Historically, it was a little risky for people to carry these precious documents, such as green card, because there is a hefty fee to replace it, and they are at risk of not having proof of status, a precarious position, LaPointe said. But as immigration enforcement has ramped up, the risks of not carrying legal documents has grown. Failure to comply with the law can result in a $100 fine or imprisonment of up to 30 days. U.S. citizens aren't required to carry documents that prove their citizenship. But with increasing immigration enforcement, Fernando Garcia, executive director of the nonprofit Border Network for Human Rights in El Paso, Texas, said he worries about U.S. citizens being targeted. In updated guidance, attorneys at Masuda, Funai, Effort, and Mitchell, which has offices in Chicago, Detroit, and Los Angeles, advise U.S. citizens who are concerned about being stopped and questioned to carry a U.S. passport card or a copy of their U.S. passport as evidence of U.S. citizenship. With massive raids and mass deportation, this takes a new dimension, Garcia said. How rapidly are we transitioning into show me your papers state? This article is from USA Today. According to polls, divide remains over Trump policies. A string of recent polls shows President Donald Trump's approval rating has remained largely steady over the last week, even as a new Gallup survey gave him his lowest numbers of his second term. Aggregations of recent approval polling from the New York Times and Real Clear Politics placed Trump's approval between 44 and 45%, respectively, with a 53% to 42% disapproval. In a July 25th poll from Emerson College, the president had a 46% approval rating and a 47% disapproval. That's a 1-point increase on both counts from the surveys in June. About 6 months into the second-term administration, the president's approval rating has stabilized in the mid-40s, the poll's executive director Spencer Kimball said, while his disapproval has steadily increased about a point each month since the inauguration and now stands at 47%. In a Gallup poll released a day prior, the president's approval rating was significantly lower, coming in at 37%. The pollsters called it the lowest mark of his second term and only a few points higher than his all-time low rating of 34% at the end of his first term. The highest disapproval numbers were on the economy, with a 41% approval rating and a 51% disapproval. That continued to sink with Trump's tariff policy, with 36% approving while 50% disapproved. The Gallup poll marks a 10-point drop from the 47% approval rating Americans gave Trump at the beginning of his second term in January. About 29% of independent voters said they're pleased with Trump's job performance in the new survey, the lowest Gallup has tracked with the group in either of Trump's two terms. It's a 17-point decline from the 46% the president enjoyed among independents at the start of his second term earlier this year. And we now reach the end of our time. This has been Bob reading the Tuesday, July 29th, 2025 edition of the Fall River Herald News. Thank you very much for listening and have a pleasant day.